Hey folks, thanks for joining me. This is part 2 of 2 on the Western Air Patrol radio, model 587, chassis W835. And again, that's the brand. It was actually under Western Auto Supply and referenced as model 487. So what you're seeing here again are a few before and after pictures of the restoration. Again, I got the chassis back together with the tuning assembly back on the radio, and just wanted to share just a few photos of the completed restoration. The speaker wire to the 4-prong plug was replaced all the way back up to a tie-down point on the speaker. It had been just taped over and soldered, as you can see here in the photo. So I didn't want to take any chances with it, and I went on and actually replaced it. In part 1, I mentioned the transformer checked good. Actually, I misspoke. The transformer had a bad ground inside the clamshell that I had to repair. In addition, the transformer had 2 6.3 volt windings, with one of those windings being open. So I'm actually just tapped one of them off and using the available 6.3 winding to feed the 6 volt heater tubes. I had mentioned earlier, I think in part 1, that the radio had been worked on at some point in time. Again, the transformer, after I made the repairs, I hooked it back up correctly in the circuit. As you can see from here, this is a pre-picture. The transformer was not even connected to the 5Y3 rectifier tube. With the transformer mounted and tied back into the circuit, I focused my attention on the B-plus circuit. As you can see here, I replaced the electrolytic capacitors on a terminal strip and have them mounted and tied into the circuit. After replacing the electrolytic capacitors, I just moved on to the wax and paper caps and replaced all of those. I did leave all the mica capacitors in place. As you can see here from some of the photos, the caps that were in there were in bad shape, which is typical for a radio of that era. Also took time to clean and lube all the band switch connections, deox those, along with the tube sockets. The rubber grommets you see were replaced as well later on in the restoration process. Here are a few photos of the capacitors replaced in the circuit. After replacing all the caps, I did spend some time and checked every resistor in the circuit and replaced, I think it was 6 or 7 resistors that read high outside of 20%, and replaced those as well. With the capacitors replaced and the out of tolerance resistors, I went on and brought the radio up on the variac, paying very close attention to the amp draw. And everything checked well. So I continued to bring it up, and I had very little to no audio on the radio. So I ended up getting my audio signal generator out and doing some signal tracing, and went back to the second IF can. You can see here in the photos it looks like maybe a mouse or something had got up into the IF can from underneath the chassis, and the wire was actually broken. So I went in and made that repair, put the IF can back in, and fired the radio up, and it played pretty well. It seemed to be out of alignment, but again, I did get audio, and it sounded fairly well just for the first fire up. So again, I let the radio play for a couple more hours, just paying close attention to the amp draw and the voltage, and everything stayed nice and steady. You may have noticed in the previous pictures there was just a small glance there. I did put a fuse holder in and put a fuse in and a excuse me, a 35 ohm resistor just to drop the voltage down on the radio to about 105 volts. And the reason for that, the transformer just seemed to be a little bit hot, and with 120 to 122 volts, I was around 375 volts AC to the plates of the 5Y3, which is exceeds the characteristics of the tube. So I put that in again just to reduce the line voltage down some for those folks that may not have a variac to play the radio on. I also failed to mention I installed two X1, Y2 safety caps across the line input as well, just to suppress some of the line noise as well, make the radio safer. So I moved on to the RF alignment, and the IF cans are 460 kilocycles, so got those aligned, and then once I got the again the dial plate back on the radio, I went on and made the other adjustments for all three bands as called for in the rider's schematic, and it actually aligned with no issues, and the alignment was pretty far off. It looks like someone had did a lot of adjustments on the radio in the past, but anyway, I was able to bring it back in with no issues. So here's a few video clips of the radio playing. Again, it's a pretty noisy night with some electrical storms in the area, and just had an inside antenna only, so reception's very limited, and again, probably not the best conditions. But here's just a quick look of the and sound of the radio playing.
In a conversation with Bob Woodward, he pointed out to Woodward that he had made up the line. Woodward thought that
50 years ago, Ozzy. Guys have a track record. They know how to play together. I think he's got tremendous confidence both in Eric Spoelstra and in Pat Riley. So in my heart, he's not going anywhere. Now, that's not helping.
Thank God. People don't want to hear that.
Tell us that everything is fine and dandy and we're unknown.
God bless you. Goodbye. And then hang up the phone.
Ciudad de transmite.
Hoy en el nombre poderoso de Jesús.
And you know what they are. Like I said, there's three different kinds. There's one.
They ring. A ding ding.
You at one time or another in our lives. Thank you.
If he's moderate or apolitical, that's great. You needn't work.
Parental guidance suggested.
Given authority over the devil.
Much longer.
Little shortwave action.
Pues para eso te invitamos a hacer unos ejercicios espirituales según el...
Since the beginning of time, we've had...
Porque a veces mi imaginación se va por otros lados y... Me alegra muchísimo la pregunta porque dentro de los...
Acostado.
So again, thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed the restoration series here on the Western Auto Supply radio branded Western Air Patrol. It was a lot of fun, very challenging, and probably spent about 7 days or so in total doing the restoration, getting it back in shape to be presentable back to my dad.